Welcome to episode number 36 of Equestrian Sounds. Today, I'm honored to share a conversation with someone whose work has a deep impact on the way many of us think about horses. She is Lisa Ashton, founder of Equicoach. I first discovered Lisa in the Equine Welfare Conference in 2020 during lockdown from Proyecto Caballo, and I read her publication and her teachings on equitation science, and what struck me was how clearly she translates complex science into practical, compassionate ways of working with horses. She has dedicated more than 20 years and her career to help riders, trainers, and equine professionals to understand not just what horses do, but the why, and always placing their welfare at the center. In this episode of Equestrian Sounds, we are going to explore Lisa's journey and her vision for equitation science and the tools she shares to bring evidence-based knowledge with everyday horsemanship. Whether you are a professional, a student, or simply someone who loves horses, I believe her perspective will give you a fresh insight into how we can create a better life for them and for us, and a more authentic connection with them. So, with further ado, let's welcome to Equestrian Sound, Lisa, and thanks for coming. Bye bye. So, hello, I'm back to this Overseas Talks. Today we have a proactive speaker that speaks for equitation science. She speaks for positive welfare, for ethics. She's doing a bunch of whole things, putting horses in the center. She's the co-host with Dr. McLean with the podcast At the Other Side of the Ring. She gives lectures at Harper College. She has her own project, Equicoach. She gives, and today she's here online in this Equestrian Sounds number 36. She's Lisa Ashton, and we are happy to be with you here and learn together. So thank you for coming, Lisa.
What a lovely welcome. So lovely. Carlos, thank you for inviting me. And to all your listeners listening, I've got a little, if you can watch online, I've got a little bit of honor to you in Spain. Can you see these?
Yeah, okay. These are pineapples, no?
Yeah, I just thought it would bring a bit of
Nice.
intersectionality of wanting to be in Spain in person with you, Carlos. I love your energy and all the ways that you advocate for horses. And I just wanted to give you my little token of gratitude for all you do in Spain and around the world. Your work ripples in all the spaces that matter to horses. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it was being trying to be this proactive agent in equine center services and putting horses like you do in the center in body, mind, and soul. That's a very interesting approach I'm trying to give. So grateful for that.
I'm grateful for you and that you are doing the work you're doing and it matters. So yeah, thank you, Carlos.
Thank you for that. So the first question: how are you, Lisa?
I'm really excited, and it's two reasons. But the first one is I this is off the back of a equine cultures in transition conference that I went to last week, and the second reason is I've submitted about end of April. My first published book. I've had an ebook before called Welfare Horse Sports. And yeah, I'm just deeply engaged in conversations that are sort of reshaping equestrian culture. And the direction I feel that we're heading and why I'm excited is it's more in line with our horses' telos and therefore much more about applied ethics, and definitely we're having conversations that are grounded in scientific practices. So it's really energizing me.
Nice, nice, and congratulations for all of that. Congratulations for your conference in equine culture and that new book that will be around for the welfare of sport horses, and I will be looking for that. So, what was your motivation, curiosity to join this equestrian culture, equestrian world?
What a great question. I mean, certainly it helps to go back to my origins, and I'm really from a working class family down in the southwest of England, in a place called Plymouth in a county of Devon. And if it wasn't really for my parents, who actually sort of became this huge support for me being different at school. I'm sure there's many listeners that recognize that our passion for horses doesn't sit in the spaces where we are educated. So for me, it was I went to a comprehensive school,
Mhm.
and my mum would pick me up after school, and we would go off to a livery yard where I would go and then take care of my lone horse. And yeah, I had a very supportive upbringing where I actually got to really enjoy a pony club. The pony club I belong to is called the Dartmoor, and it's down in Plymouth. But it was really their support that sort of helped me expand all the facets that we enjoy about horses. And with the infrastructure or the support of the Pony Club, the UK Pony Club, I was really shaped by those experiences as a child. And it led me to get the highest accolade in the Pony Club qualifications. I hold the Pony Club A test. And I also, at the same time, qualified as a British Horse Society intermediate instructor. But today's currency, that's a senior coach. I've evented with British Eventing, so that's an affiliation up to novice level with my own horse, which really wasn't, that was the sort of first time from having a lone horse. I had my own horse when he was 2 years old, and his name is Bobby Beard or Bobby. Um, my maiden name is Beard, so that's where Bobby Beard came from. I think some of the students named him Bobby Beard because there's many Bobbies in our horse lives. But I think what might resonate with our listeners is really how I found my way to equitation science. I've always been relentlessly curious. So I've always asked why. Why do horses behave the way they do? Why do some training methods actually build connection and relational experiences, whilst other content, and when I say content, I mean knowledge that is being communicated by a coach or a trainer, why does that actually cause confusion for the horse and conflict and does the opposite of connection for us? So I was always that annoying um lesson, somebody that you'd be teaching that'd be going, why? And I think that became a real problem for some equestrian coaches, that I was always asking why. And that also sort of shaped who I am today, sort of from what I don't and who I didn't want to become. And then so really what I was really trying to do in those formative years of coach or training horses and being a coach was actually trying to understand, why are some horses being silenced and yet other horses we get to connect? And I didn't actually have the language or the framework to make sense of what I was seeing and what you and I would relate to as feeling. So it was Christmas Day. It was 2003. I was gifted by my sister the book The Truth About Horses, written by Dr. Andrew McLean. So I had it for Christmas. I opened it, and other than pausing to eat Christmas dinner, I didn't put it down. And so for the first time, I was seeing or receiving knowledge about how the horse's lived experience through the lens of learning theory, cognition, behavioral science. And it really gave answers, like real evidence based, empowering answers to the questions that I've been carrying, not just for months, but for years. And that moment, really, for me, was it's what I call my moment of having my whole work redefined in the professional direction I'm now in. So although I've been working in this in the field of equestrian science for 20 years, that in 2003 was the pivotal moment or the epiphany that set me on the direction I'm on now, and my book Welfare Horse Sports.
Wow. Resonates really a lot, and I think a lot of people, like in the question world, resonate with that. For me, like that explosion of being too curious about to understand horses. And even now today that I have much more knowledge, sometimes I feel that um, horses are so unknown for us that
Mm,
we need to learn so much things about them that after you can take it to your own or learning process and your own quality of life. That is really it shifts your mind like
mm.
360 degrees, and that
Carlos, yeah, sorry.
no, and that's amazing.
Well, I just think how you, when you were speaking then, I was just really relating to the fact that we're just lifelong learners, Carlos, you and I. And I think one of the things that you'll notice in my conversations and through the book that I've just finished is the whole Maya Angelou quote, which is that, let's do the best we can with what we know. And that's what we were doing 30, 40 years ago, 100 years, like at that time, without having really exquisite researchers leaning into asking the more relevant questions, like what's in it for the horse, which is what the text, The Truth About Horses, really prompted in me. The questions that Andrew asked is, what's actually going on in a training method for the horse and their lived experience. So once in the last, certainly the last 20 years, all this research and this, you and I are just lifelong learners, like wanting to know better is actually just that curiosity being amplified, expanded. And then Maya Angelou finishes her quote by saying, yeah, let's just do the best we can at that time. However, now we know better, or as soon as we know better, here's her invitation. Can we have the responsibility, that's how I see it, to do
Totally.
better?
Responsibility, what a huge word when being account for horse management, no, or trying to assist in equine assisted services, no. And you were saying this, and I thought about this. He's a writer from Spain, and he says that when you think you have all the answers, suddenly the universe comes and changes all the questions,
I
and
love
it's like this
it.
was the point, no? And
I
I
love the way the question, I think also what I think we could be really leaning into through reflexive praxis. So that ability to be introspective and to look inwards, look out, look at our history, our equestrian history, and to look at future proofing equestrianism. That's what a reflexive praxis means. What I love is let's not put the spotlight on the answers. Let's start asking better questions.
totally, totally, and it's not about it's about putting all this knowledge about horse people doing things in the global scale, like sharing. And of course, it's going to be different what you do in the UK because or in Spain because the cultural context is so different that this is going to be like it's not going to be the same, of course, because it's
That
and
diversity, isn't
that diversity is awesome.
I love our cultural differences. Or I mean, let's even just look at the word culture. All it means is normalized behavior, and if that should be diverse and different in each country based on the environment, our geographical proximity to resources. So our normalized behavior. What I think maybe you're getting at is it horse centric or welfare centric, or perhaps it's got human centered goals and achievements and how we want to use horses, especially in sport.
Totally, totally. And it's kind of difficult. Friday, I had this opportunity. My own project was like finalist of a incubation program of, and in the pitch was 3 minutes. It was very difficult because I proposed this exercise to put see the horse in the center. This horse body, mind, and soul. And of course, when you put this exercise in a more like um, profit lover, like enterprise and everything context in an incubation program, it it will do some type of reflection, no? And you are asking them to see a horse, but in the same moment you are asking to see themselves, no? At this intro
Oh,
intro
yeah.
point of view, And this is kind of challenging because you're going to have this type of pivotal moment, like this breakdown, maybe, you know? And I think when you start understanding horses that they are really unknown and you put them in the center as whole individuals, it's difficult for the person because you make them also realize about how they are. And sometimes they say, okay, I don't want to see who I am. I want to see
Mm.
the horse, but I don't want to really. I don't. It's not about I don't want to see the horse. It's not. I don't want to see what I have been constructing or what's my own construction. You know, so it goes much more than just understanding equine welfare and equine sciences, and it's much more.
I think what you're nailing for all the listeners is the word I use, layering. I think you're talking about layering, and I love the fact that our horses become our mirrors, and that is about embracing discomfort. I talk a lot about discomfort and how important. Now, being in education and really my positionality is that understanding through education or being an educator. And what I really mean by that is translating actually what we know and how we know what we know. So that word epistemology is all it is a field of where does our knowledge come from? Like, how do we know what we know? And I invite all of us to think about that. But as an educationalist, and I relate to as applied scholar, just you talking about the layering of being able to get deeply discomfort. How are we really? If we're, if I'm saying that I'm an educationalist and you're here in the space that we share for learning, and vice versa, by the way, from the horse, we're learning from our horses. Like, how can we really be learning from horses and people if we are not in discomfort? And that's my real sort of like litmus test is actually if you're comfortable, learning's not taking place.
Totally, totally. I love that reflection. Let's move on a little bit. Um, So, with what horse or horses do you have a closer connection or closer relationship, or that horse that has been like this really uh, teacher or educator
Yeah.
for you?
Great question, really great. I've already mentioned his name because that's easy to do. One horse, Bobby Beard. But actually, I mean, I mention him because he put me on the path to evidence-based equitation and opened the doors for me to really update and do the Maya Angelou invitation to do better for horses. So that's Bobby. But actually, if I'm honest, the horse that I'm most like, I feel most for is not one. It's every horse whose voice has been quieted by tradition. It's the horses misunderstood because their behaviour does not fit the story we want to tell ourselves. It's the horse who flinches at the mountain block, or the school horse who is labelled lazy, stubborn, keen. But in
Well,
truth, horses are all experiencing, or those horses, sorry, are experiencing possibly confusion, fear, or pain. These are the horses that are at the heart of Welfare Horse Sports, my new book, and their lived experience is what drives my work and just keeps me asking in every situation, what is it like for this horse to be a horse? And I think my job, and I believe all our responsibility to all our listeners, as to how our horses are actually feeling about all our interactions. Being able to recognize negative experiences for horses is only the start of helping our horses resolve those experiences for them before we can provide opportunities for positive ones, which we can do and are doing. So, ultimately, leaving horses better is really my North Star because of all our interactions. And certainly in my book, Welfare Horse Sports, I do explain the observable behaviours of applying first principles in horse training or evidence based knowledge.
love that. Love that because from my own equine services, I collaborate I am responsible of two, and I also collaborate with other livery stables. But in that livery stables, they are shut down. They suffer pain. They don't want to be with humans. They have a positive association to persons. And even though you have to do things, and when you start seeing the horse and you start integrating all this process, you can make small changes that will change the quality of life, or at least in that moment of that 1 hour with that client or that person, you can create the atmosphere to really make a difference. Of course, it's going to be it's only 1 hour or 2 hours that you can have that interaction. And in 24 hours, it's like nothing. But
Hang on, it's not nothing, is it? It's
but
not nothing for the horse. And you've just epitomized leave horses better. All it really means is just a North Star for what you just shared. That 1 hour you've shown up in relation to that horse and have offered your service with your knowledge and your attunement to that individual horse the ability to enhance their lived experience or their well-being. So
yeah,
again, thank you, Carlos, for doing that 1 hour or that 30 minutes, or because it isn't nothing. And
yeah,
I think that's this whole excitement I have around collective reflection or reflexive practice, because that's where you're showing up. If it was totally pointless,
yeah,
then perhaps your energy would be spent elsewhere. But it isn't pointless, is it? That for that
yeah,
1 hour, you are totally leaving that horse better because of your interaction and the knowledge you have around their lived experience and how they can have their telos satisfied. Just shifting from patting horses to scratches, it's the tiniest, lowest hanging fruit possible. Like it is absolutely, people will be listening thinking, oh, here she goes again, talking about scratching horses at the base of the wither. But the reason why I go on about it is because it's so tiny, and yet we're still resistant to change, and we still find patting just so much more human serving than showing up and serving our horses what they value, as opposed to what you and I, what we think is of value, like a pat on the back from human to human. These pats are at best neutral. And at worst, we've got research showing that they cause tension and acceleration because of the pats. So, you've got me on my, like these little things are just massive
yeah,
to
yeah,
leave
yeah.
better.
It makes totally sense. But sometimes I'm happy because I do it like every week with those horses. But sometimes when you like give them the opportunity to they can speak, but they go back to the daily life and the daily management. Sometimes like okay, it's a little bit not nice because you have opened an opportunity that they can speak, but they go back to the normal life, like the liver life, and it's back to the things they were done before, like traditional equestrianism.
Carlos, you're really helping listeners navigate for them as well
Yeah, yeah,
ethical dilemmas. You're talking about an ethical dilemma. Like you're showing up in that 1 hour, and yet what is the impact, the challenge for us to then help them be resilient? I mean, that's nice because you've just led us into resiliency for horses and what that actually means. Like it means that they are in adversity. Like what you're talking about going back to other ways of interacting with humans may not be optimal for that individual, but maybe it is optimal. But you're suggesting that if it isn't optimal, they do require expanding their resiliency. And I think that's also our responsibility. So I do think you bring to all the listeners what we all experience. You're so relational, Carlos, because we all experience ethical dilemmas. I think there is, and as ethics is that whole minefield of different frameworks of ethics, from deontology to utilitarianism. We don't have what equestrians want, which is certainty. We just know that I can reflect on that interaction and be very mindful and deep in my reflection that actually this is not optimal returning away from that. However, does that stop me doing that 1 hour of interaction to leave? For me, absolutely not, because ultimately that tension of ethics is really about showing up to expand their resiliency. What if we didn't do that 1 hour, Carlos? Like how would there that to me? I can't live in a future where that exists because we do know better. You and and your listeners do know how to add value to a horse's lived experience by scratching them where they want to be scratched or their sweet spot.
Yeah,
We
that's,
don't have to be patting them. So yeah, no, I do think you're really relatable to all your listeners.
yes, thanks for that. And really thanks for that input. And yes, this ethical dilemma, it's
It's everything, isn't
a
it?
big thing, a very big thing.
But what I love about podcasts and your podcast is you're actually having the conversations, Carlos. We
Yeah,
can do hard things. You're proving it. You're having the big conversations. So ethical dilemmas welcome here.
yeah, totally. And that's where I have your number 36 episode. There are 29 already online. And from all the things, I started just something, this podcast as something like, but like from this 2025, I really trying to put a little bit more energy here and try to be more, believe more in it, believe in what I do, and just asking, like how I ask you, okay, Lisa, I have this podcast. Would you like to have this interview? So I share the questions and just have this conversation, like something much more natural, not like very strict, like with, yeah, we have a script and we have these questions, but things go, no, and things
You're
go.
you're at, yeah, I think you've decided to be your contribution is to show us your advocacy. And I'm seeing it, Carlos. You're a real bright light in this really challenging times. Like in the last 6 months, the pace of change is super exponential in the world of sport, using horses in sport, and actually public trust. I'll quickly mention it. I no longer use the word social license to operate. I was there 5 years ago. I wrote an ebook, one of the first to actually write on social license to operate in the lockdown, actually in 2020. And since then, actually, I think it's been weaponized, and I'm really not comfortable with equestrians using social license to sort of bash change and to sort of really and also to get a big flag with righteousness and wave equestrian's righteousness flag.
This
And I am
greenwash,
an equestrian. Yeah,
the
I am an
greenwash.
yeah. I mean, I am an equestrian, and I'm just really conscious that when we're talking social license, if you know what you're, if you know the actual premise and the understanding of a social license, it is nothing to do with what equestrians think. It is all about a non-equestrian. It's all about public trust. Now, you and I are public, but we're deep into our own bias. We're deep into the relations and the relational experiences that we benefit because we have relationships with horses. So this is not about you and I. If we're talking social license, this is not about equestrians. It's absolutely what non-equestrians trust us to safeguard the physical and mental state. So it's not just physical, but their mental well-being. And if we can't demonstrate we are trustworthy to do that, we will be having our public trust rejected. And that is huge for all of us. And, my positionality. I am pro horse sports as long as the lived experience of the horse is centered and we can actually demonstrate enrichment during that performance or that experience in sport or competition. If we can't, then we are going to have to actually do better, in the words of Maya Angelou.
Totally and agree. And I'm grateful for that big energy towards me and my own because it's gives lots of self-confidence, on my own process and our own process, and really makes sense. Like, okay, why are we do this? Why we book this course? Why we after do the edition, put it on the YouTube, put it on the Spotify. It's much more about doing things with horses. It's about what you were saying before, this ethical bias, and being ethical to just try to be your own life worth living. If my own life is worth living, horse's life would be worth living, and those horses that I interact, whatever, they, and that's like the main point of life. No,
Carlos, you really position the equality or the equity of horses and people. And I really appreciate that because obviously I'm advocating for the lived experience of horses, but that is never absent of the human. And I think sometimes I do get misinterpreted or I land for some people, or I land on them as though it's the horse over humans. But because the horse is absent of voice, they are communicating, they're absolutely communicating, we're just not listening. I That's why I speak with this energy. But what you just did back then was really place equality or the equity between horses and us. And why would we want just the horse to live a good life? Why would we not want that to ripple and to become what humans? And then let's expand it to our planet, our environment. Why don't we want triple well-being? I'm really leaning into that actually. I talk about it in Welfare Horse Sports. Why aren't we doing triple well-being? Why is one sort of being privileged over the other two? And when I say triple, I mean equine, horse, equestrian, human, and the environment. So yeah, I just really love the way that you did that for us. Thank you, Carlos.
thank you. And I think yes, this it's about what you said at the beginning. No, standing up your voice, standing up your knowledge, standing on your own process, what you have done, and we all come from the same equestrian background, and it's just giving the voice because horses speak all the time,
All the time,
all the
all the time. Isn't it sad that we've just missed listening
yeah.
and hearing them? But we're here now, though. Let's not give ourselves a hard time. Maya Angelou would not want that.
No, no,
We
no.
did the best we could then, and now we know better. You and I are absolutely taking that responsibility. We're centering our responsibility to add value to horses' lived experiences and to leave them better.
Totally, and I think that's what uh, it's all of this about. So let's move a little bit forward. You more or less touched some things, but the next thing is, can you give us three proposals of improvement for your job, passion, or work?
Oh, what a question. You're such a good interviewer, Carlos. I mean, the first thing I would really like to see professionally, and it actually, like it's who I am. So even the question itself is so intersectional. It just helps me sort of show up in my full self. And that is, I've recently been appointed as the education officer. So I was voted in for the International Society for Equitation Science, who I've been around for 20 years, but have had three iterations of first principles. And the current iteration, and because we're always doing research, I know there'll be more. Like this whole thing about being able to rethink and have the agility mentally to move with adaptations or updates is massively important to my professional being. So my first thing I would like to see happen is to embed first principles. So all that means is if we were in manufacturing or advertising, every sector or industry has something called first principles. And they are just that. They're principles. They are not methods or methodologies or processes. But my first thing that I'd like to take forward, certainly now I am actually returning. I was the education officer, 2008 to 2012. So I feel like I'm returning really to serve members. I'm here with my 20 years experience of applying first principles and the work that I've been doing for 20 years to really support members of ISIS and anyone that is interested in evidence-based knowledge. So that's my first thing. I want to see the first principles of horse training, International Society for Equitation Science, embedded in every training syllabus across all disciplines. Like I'm really going with that big, hairy, audacious goal on my landscape, because I don't think first principles are even optional. They are foundational. My second one, I think, has to be about really seeing the five domains model 2020, which has updates such as it should, interact. So the fourth domain is behavioral interactions. The addition in 2020 was the word interactions, and 4C is horse human interactions, which is really the heartland of my professional work. And I want to see the five domains placed as the gold standard for all welfare assessment frameworks, because it puts the horse's mental state, fifth domain, at its heartland or center. So that's my second sort of where I want to take my work, and to sort of ripple into both my own silos, because that's what we're all in our own communities of practice. But I want to also cascade into not my silos. Like I want to be able to sort of bring these two first principles and five domains into all communities of practice. And then the third one that I've really been thinking about is actually we should just normalize. So this is that word culture, reflexive praxis, that introspection, to look at that mirror you talked about, Carlos. When I see a horse mirroring back at me, my insides, and for me to reflect on them, and that means act, not just like, oh yeah, okay. So it's inside, it's outside, it's my participatory, like your advocacy that you're doing, your contribution. It's looking back at my heritage, at equestrian tradition, and keeping what works because we are putting it through the tests of evidence-based knowledge. And if it stands the test, then we keep it. It's like renovating a house. Why would we just like, bulldoze it all down? Actually, what we do is we look at what is really working for a house, and we keep that and we value it, and then we renovate what's not working. And what's not working for horses is an absence of learning processes. If we're busy being experts as coaches or trainers and we have an absence of knowledge of how horses learn, we just need to update ourselves. We just need to renovate. And so I really see renovation over being like a revolt. We don't need a revolution, we just need renovation. And so this third one, I think, comes from the ability to think reflectively and to have this reflexive praxis of looking at our heritage in order to future proof or safeguard or to provide sustainability of what you and I love, which is our interactions that are based on relational experiences with a non-human, with a horse. And it's so precious to my own life and my personal life, my career, and just being able to help young persons to have that sort of experience, as opposed to in the future not being able to ride or compete horses. Remember, I've already place that caveat, as long as we've got evidence. And I mean, like we're about 1 to 2 years away of using artificial intelligence to scan for positive emotional states in our horses' facial expressions. We are not far from it. We've been doing Equifax for some decades, actually, from other. So this is about facial action coding, and we've got it going on in dogs. Artificial intelligence being used to profile their emotions. So we're just so close. I mean, just give it a few more years, Carlos. We are so close to seeing in our horses' competitive arenas, so dressage, show jumping, eventing, actually their emotional states. And that is going to be our game changer. So I just think let's just hold tight let's do the best we can for our horses. But AI is going to absolutely, and has already, it's been, AI is not even new, but is not yet trained. So we talk about deep learning or deep machine learning. AI hasn't yet finished the training of positive emotional states because researchers haven't yet agreed the consensus of the evidence of positive mental states or positive emotional experiences. But what I love is the researchers, equitation scientists are asking the questions. Like, what else is there? We haven't yet got the answers, but we are actually busy leaning into what the next question is. And it's not just doing horse sports better, it's actually getting to the center of what that looks like. And I don't think we can get to the center without reflexive praxis. Sorry for the long answer.
No, love it, love it, and I think it's you touch all the things that we have been speaking in this conversation up to this point. And what I said before, also, I'm grateful because it's just gives me and give us this acceptance about what really in the first initial moments may sound as a crazy thing about this, no, looking at the horse. Really, in not much time, it's going to be a change maker, and we are going to be much more better positioned
Mm.
than other equestrians, and sharing this type of talks, sharing this type of knowledge, your project, my project. Um, of course, it can you can make like a crucial point, like a controversial point, because you're saying things that make sense, that they are valuable, and it shows them like they have to undergo this change, this process of change, and it just brings like this type of calmness and peace that okay, we are prepared for whatever is coming. And of course, when we do speak about equine welfare and positive welfare and ethics, nobody says that we shouldn't ride a horse, but we have to be aware about all that things that are happening with those riding school, because maybe in like um, show jumping or dressage or eventing sports school horses, it's not they're going to be very nice, but in those riding horses or liveries, because of other human aspects, they they are shouting that they are not comfortable or they're in discomfort.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the things I would like to talk about, and I have addressed this in Welfare Horse Sports, is we're quite it's just a human condition, so it's not just equestrians, but we're very established. If we look around the world and look at how society's changed in the last few years, we're very deep into sorting each other, othering each other, and siloing each other. And I just feel like at this point, before we get, like you say, before we have this sort of game changing technology of being able for equitation science to sort of bring us how our horses actually feel about what we're doing, I would love to see us like walk away or get curious about different perspectives rather than sorting, othering, and siloing. I call it SOS. Why don't we? My invitation to all of us, myself included, is to show up with this tolerance or curiosity for different perspectives. And actually, one of my perspectives, or one of the things I'm practicing like constantly, is to ask myself, what am I missing? Like if I'm listening to a podcast or conversations and it's a different perspective to mine, I'm always curious to ask myself and also the people I'm listening to, what is it that I'm missing? Because that perspective might be in a different community of practice but I do think what you're saying is that let's be prepared for just this value of the horse's lived experience because we are able to use technology to identify their negative and this is what I'm excited about positive experiences. Like, I want to see our performance horses show us their curiosity and their joy. Like, when we've got evidence of that, how exciting is that we're doing interactions and relationships with horses that actually have enrichment embodied. And if that is where we are heading and we can demonstrate that, why would we not celebrate our relationships with horses as opposed to what I'm seeing with sorting, othering, siloing? Like we're not being great at each other and recognizing that the horse is the center. And once their lived experience is optimal, we can that will ripple into our lived experiences, which we've already talked about earlier on this episode.
Oh, and it's so much it transcends to another level. It's
I love that.
you are in all of this gives you another transition of about the equestrian experience about riding a horse, no, or being with a horse.
Mm.
It
It's transformational, isn't it?
gives
It's
you to another dimension, like
another layer.
another thing. I won't say I won't change it, but I love what I'm doing now with horses, and I'm conscious that I come from a very traditional point of view, and but now what I do with horses, they are much more. Maybe I'm not half like uh, not all the time with horses, but not all hours, but those moments where I am interacting with my own horses or with other horses from liveries, what I said before, just giving the voice. And that's the most important thing.
Beautiful. Really lovely words, Carlos.
So we're working on it. And this
Always work in progress, always.
always. And this is for this moment will be for you. Today we are in 2025. What would you say, Lisa Ashton, in 10 years, in 2035?
Mm.
That's for you.
Oh, you use those lovely questions. I would love to be able to say that the cascades, and that's what I'm really interested in, cascades of change, like going into other silos and bringing in the first principles, the five domains. I want to be able to say the cascade worked. How cool would that be? That small communities of practice built ripples of change, and that made horse welfare not just an add-on, but a benchmark of excellence in sport. I hope I'll look back and see a shift from control to compassion in how we train, compete, and relate to horses.
Awesome. Control, compassion. Awesome. You were saying this and this thing of the cascade, it's really nice because you are part from ISIS. I'm also the chair of the ethics task force from HETI. Also joined this Beyond Welfare community or Proyecto Caballo or INICE, or there are so many places, so many
Mm.
organizations that are working with this.
We're a massive community.
And
I just, I
it's,
love community. Like we're better together.
it's
Like why would we silo each other or really sort each other as though if you're only in that community, you can't cascade into others? Actually, transformational change happens because we go out of our own communities and we populate or enjoy a diverse perspective. That's how change actually happens through cascades. So yeah, please, let's all keep expanding our communities and just having that experience of leaving our own communities and cascading for horses enhanced horse welfare.
cascading communities. I love that concept. Thank you for that. Cascading communities. Cascading communities. I'm just trying to put it on my brain because I love that. Cascading
I
communities.
talk, I talk about this in my book, Welfare Horse Sports, but I talk about cascades of change. And in that section specifically is communities of practice and how when we step out of our own communities, we can cascade what the change that we're all seeking, which is to, I think, for that individual horse, be more a horse.
Cascade community. Perfect. And for to end this episode, we have a Spotify a playlist from iPony Outdoors. What song or artist would you propose for this Spotify list?
I don't actually listen to music when I'm with horses. I'm very attuned to horses, but so that's my focus when I'm training my horses and or just being with them. I don't listen to any music. But if I had to choose a song that captures the heart of my work, it would be Take This Chance by Anastasia. And it's like my personal anthem for the welfare horse sports mindset. It's a song all about stepping into the unknown, breaking old patterns, choosing change, even when it's hard and uncomfortable. And that really mirrors what I'm asking of equestrians for us all to let go of our inherited traditions that really might not serve horses anymore. They did, but maybe now, because we now know better, we can actually serve them better and to lean into something better. And the lyric, let's take this chance and we'll make a new start, that's exactly what I'm inviting. A fresh start based on what we know from the first principles, ISES, of horse training and the 5 domains model of welfare. It's all about doing better because we can and because I think our horses deserve it.
So take this chance from Anastasia. Thanks for that. You are the third interviewer that said that when you are with horses, you don't listen to music, you're focused on this. And I totally agree. Sometimes I put music on that. So, but I'm also like, these questions is because I like sometimes music take you to this consciousness or this point of just motivational or whatever. And that's why I put this question. And I
love the question. It's a great question, and I love music, but
yeah,
I that's not for me when I'm training.
yeah, and I make sense totally. And this song of "Take This Chance," I think it's a perfect wrap up for this almost 1 hour talk of episode because it's about taking the chance. Just okay, you have all the information here. It's here. You have it all. You can do it this way. If you do it this way, something will happen. If you do it the other way, something will happen, and it's okay. No?
And the discomfort's okay. Like the take this chance is about it. It will be uncomfortable. It's because we're adapting and we're updating our knowledge, and we're not going to do what we've always done because we'll just then get what we've always got. This is our moment in history to be on the side of the horse, and I'm inviting all of our listeners to take this chance and to really be on the side of the horse, on the side of the horse.
So take this chance. Thank you for that episode, Lisa. Thank you for this, and I'll keep updated with you, and we'll continue this growing process. I'm so grateful, and
me too. I'm grateful for the space that you give that makes us safe to take this chance. So yeah, thank you for all the safety that you bring in having hard conversations.
So bye-bye. Thank you.